Here we are overlooking the shores of Lake Ontario at Seabreeze Amusement Park in Rochester, New York. One of my favorite traditional amusement parks. And we are in the east parking lot. There's the entrance you would come in if you parked in the east parking lot. And this right here is the soak zone, which is part of a very extensive water park that Seabreeze has. And we're going to make a sort of counterclockwise walk around the park. We're now at the east end, in the middle of the property, and we're going to go north from here and then a little bit west and sort of curve around. And the park's water park area is scattered, so there's some here, there's some behind us, there's some off to the left, and we'll see little pieces of that as we go along here. The bucket's about to tip, so let's watch people get soaked. As with most amusement parks, the water park is a big draw, which is nice because it leaves the rest of the Midway a little bit freer for the rest of us. There you can see some lockers. In front of us is the wave swinger. There was a lot of people at the park today. They have another parking lot that's on the west side, and it's right near the main entrance, but that was completely filled when we arrived just at opening time. So it can get very busy here. And I just found out that on Mondays, the park has senior days. So if you're a senior citizen, you get free entry, no strings attached, on Mondays in the summer. All right, so over on the left, you could get some chicken. Over on the right was the entrance to the wave swinger. And then coming up here is one entrance to many picnic groves that the park has. The park does a lot of business with outings and groups, and they have a lot of pavilions. Some of them are right on the cliff side of the park overlooking Lake Ontario. Let's take a little walk through Kiddie City, which is the Kiddieland area. And they have some very nice vintage rides in here. These are the usual stuff you would see, the boats, the kiddie swings. There's a vintage turtle ride. And the jets. Now the park is in Rochester, but it's actually in a suburb called Irondequoit. The park is sort of sandwiched between Irondequoit Bay and Lake Ontario. And that gives it a real big draw. It started off in the 1870s as, like so many parks, a trolley park. It was the end of the trolley line, and it was built up from there. And that makes it one of the oldest amusement parks in the United States. And here's a nice big bumper car arena. And over here on the left is a pathway to yet another picnic area. And now we're entering sort of the main Midway section. Over here on the right is a building where you can get waffles. Here's the Music Express. I love that car sticking out of the front. In 1946, George Long purchased the property from the New York Street Railway Company, and he really turned Seabreeze into the park we know today. And he was a really interesting guy. He not only ran the park, but he also built a few of the rides, like the bobsleds that you see in front of us. He bought a defunct kiddie coaster and moved the structure here, but then he created a whole new track system for it by using tubular rails, and built the little bobsled cars that run on it. And this is a really fun ride. It gives you surprising pops of airtime and some really strong laterals on it. And as you can see, it's very, very popular. And over here is Whirlwind, which is one of the newer coasters in the park. This took the place of the old Soke looping coaster that used to be in the park for many years. But yeah, this is a really good spinning coaster, and the thing I like about it is it really isn't a severely spinning coaster. As you can see, the cars sort of stay in place as you go around. It depends on the weight in the cars, but it's not something that's a really nauseating ride like a spin and barf ride, so it's a good family coaster. And you have the little skater over here on the right. And here's some concessions. Some more kiddie rides scattered throughout. Up here on the right, the pizzeria, they serve really good pizza. Highly recommended. And coming up in front of us is the park's carousel, and this is a really interesting carousel. They had a Philadelphia Toboggan Company vintage carousel for many, many years, and it burned down in a freak fire that took a lot of valuable antiques and relics with it. And undeterred, the park decided to build their own carousel. So they actually had carved all brand new horses on here. It's a beautiful ride. Really amazing carving detail on it. And over here is a unique Verbeek band organ that plays incredible songs all through it. And you can see that big case. They have tons and tons of rolls. They actually have, over on the right side of the organ, a shelf with 2 rolls on it and a little digital readout so you can see exactly what song is playing at any given time. And then they also have a sort of museum here of Seabreeze past, which I really like. Again, beautiful carousel. And the band organ just sounds great. And another unique thing in the park are all those red rocking chairs, so Grandma and Grandpa can sit and watch the grandkids. These are park offices over here and guest services. And across you can see some concessions over there, some games. And in front of us now is the Seabreeze Grill. They don't really have any indoor eateries in the park. It's all cafe style like this. But they do serve veggie burgers there, and they are really good. You can get them with grilled peppers and onions, and it's just delicious. And their onion rings are fantastic, and their French fries are fantastic. As you can see, very popular place to eat. And there's also a taco and sub place next to it. And this is really interesting. This is one of the sort of trademarks of Seabreeze, is this covered concessions area all the way down with all the row of games. I don't know of any other park I've ever been to that's had this undercover like this. And it is great because when it rains, this is where all the people go to play the games because they don't get wet there. And up here on the right is the park's gift shop, which does have some nice Seabreeze themed gifts. And this right here on the right is the main entrance to the park. If you were to park on the west side of the park, this is where you'd come in. And normally we would park there, but the park was so busy today, we ended up in the east parking lot. Over here on the right is Time Machine, which is beautifully themed. And again, I love the attention to detail in this park. They don't just slap a ride in, they make it look really nice on the Midway. Then up here is a Tilt-A-Whirl. And on the left here is one of my very favorite coasters, the Jackrabbit, which is the oldest continually operating roller coaster in the United States. Used to be Leap the Dips, but Leap the Dips is no longer running, so Jackrabbit takes over that moniker now. And then here is Bear Tracks, a kiddie coaster. And so that makes 4 roller coasters in this park, which is pretty impressive. And this is where the Midway formally ends. The Jackrabbit is running Morgan trains, which work perfectly on this ride. They're very comfortable. And notice the hand operation. It's all still run the way the ride was built, with hand lever brakes. And this guy was amazing to watch because he was running this ride all by himself. And it reminded me of my old days at Mountain Park when I used to do the same thing when I ran the roller coaster. You had to manage all the brakes yourself, let people in, and secure all the restraints. So that day flies by. You are busy. This is the newest ride at the park. It took the place of the old flying scooters ride they had here. It's called Wind Stars, and it's a really interesting ride to watch. It's basically like a Jets ride, so the arms go up and down, but the seats actually swing back and forth as well. So it's a unique sensation. And again, they made it look really nice. It's just incredibly colorful. Lots of lights on it too, so it looks good at night. And then over here, another one of my favorite rides in the park. This bridge takes you over to the Seabreeze train, which is a sort of unique construction. We'll see it coming around in a minute. There it goes. And it is a ride that goes across that bridge, and then around by the flume area, and then through a tunnel, and then back. It's a fairly long ride for the way they've sandwiched it in here. And there goes the flume. The Seabreeze flume has one of the steepest drops of any flume in the world. You will come out of your seat on that ride. It's actually a little terrifying. Incredible. I've never gotten airtime on a flume before, but when you come down that first drop, well, the only drop really, you fly, and you will get really wet. And that was all hand built in the park, so that's a unique ride to this park. George Long, another one of his creations. So here comes the train through the tunnel. We'll stand and watch this go by. When George Long bought the park, he called it Dreamland Park, and he retired in 1975, and his grandson Robert Norris took over, and Norris is the one who changed the name to Seabreeze Park, and the family still owns the park to this day. That's one of the most whimsical trains I've ever seen. Oh, and Wind Stars is starting up, so let's take a look at that. That's a nice addition to the park. I'm really glad that the park continues to add new attractions. They only closed down during the pandemic, and then they came roaring back, and as you can see, it's still very, very popular. This is a really good ice cream place that has both hard and soft ice cream. They had a strawberry cheesecake ice cream there that I'd recommend. That was very good. A little path back here, and that takes you over to one other ride, and you can see it going around there. That's Screamin' Eagle. They used to have one of those at Six Flags New England, and I really enjoyed it. I normally don't like going upside down, but that was a really fun ride. It's a shame they took it out. And here is Cirque en Vol, which is an acrobatic show that has a few shows daily, and it's really fun. A lot of trampolines in there, some pretty impressive feats. There's a kiddie balloon ride, and now we're heading back toward the kiddie land that we saw earlier. There's the swing ride. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little detour and swing around to the right. There's the station for the flume ride. And there you get a nice shot of the flume. Interesting elevated concrete troughs. Yeah, and they are soaked. You'll also find a lot of seagulls in this park. They are everywhere, and they are after your food. So make sure you guard your food because they can be a little aggressive. In the distance there, you can see a water slide collection. And they have a lot of water slides. And there is a path up here to the right. And the water park actually goes further back there. You really don't see it at all from the park. So we're going to take a little walk up that way. And they did have a lot of well-marked security in the park that day. I don't remember ever seeing so many security guards walking around the park, but it did make you feel safe. No, I haven't gotten any food. I hope you don't eat cameras. So up here on the left is the giant wave pool that they have. Let's stop and watch the train go by again. So, there's the wave pool up there. And now we'll head back in this direction. It's another huge water play area. Seabreeze is a wonderful park for families. It has plenty for adults and kids to do for an entire day. It's not so big as to be exhausting or overwhelming. And they have really good food. And it's in a beautiful location. And if you go down to the bay, there's a really nice breakwater that has a concrete walkway where you can go right out into Lake Ontario by a small lighthouse there. And that's a really pleasant walk. And they also have a small sandy beach nearby too. So if you just wanted to go for a swim in Lake Ontario, you could do that as well. So if you are in the upstate New York area, I highly recommend a visit to this beautiful family park, Seabreeze, in Rochester.